Welcome to another episode of Before You Kill Yourself with your host, Leo Flowers. Just a quick disclaimer, you may hear some background noise when we first start off the podcast. We are living in unprecedented times, and Eric Rivera is someone who I've been excited to get on the podcast forever. It just happened that at this time his family was in town, so you may hear some siblings, some kids in the background, just a little bit, not too much, and then they finally about 20 minutes in depart. So I just want to prepare you for that background noise that you may hear in the background. So I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you sharing the episodes. I hope you're having an engaging day, a story-worthy week. And with that said, here is Eric Rivera. What's your biggest challenge right now, E? When I look at you, you seem to be a guy that has it all together. You got
that's for the gram, dude.
That's for the gram.
That's for the gram, man. It's all. Listen, that's why I tell people don't pay attention to social media, man. You're only seeing the hits. You're only seeing the finished product that we want you to see. It's all a struggle, man. You know. You look at the pandemic. You had, I do stand up. So now also I'm a virtual teacher. I'm teaching second grade, and that's a struggle in itself because now I got to go back and like, oh man, I don't remember how to do this. Now there's new ways of teaching kids. They're struggling because they want to be out and see their friends and doing stuff. Marriage is a struggle because you fill out these vows of like till death do us part, but you don't think it's gonna be 24/7. If you look, a lot of marriages didn't make it. The divorce rate spiked because people were like, "Yeah, I love you, but not all the time. I need some space." And then stand up, dude. Like you were with me. Stand up went away. Stand up didn't exist. So what we chose as a career, what we chose as a life, like what we called ourselves every day, like I'm a stand-up comedian. World shuts down. It's like, oh, that doesn't exist no more. It's like there was no validation of your life choices. So yeah, dude, I struggle. Don't listen to the gram. The gram's a lie.
Talk to me about the validation of your life choices. Tell me more about that, because that's an interesting way to phrase that. Because a lot of people lost their jobs, their work, their career, their identity. Tell me more about that validation of life choices.
Well, man, from the stand-up point, I gave up everything to do this. This is something I believed I was good at. You yourself, you're a stand-up comic. You believe you're good at this. So we're chasing this dream, and with every show we get better, with every show we get stronger, every opportunity, we see that forward progress. I stopped going to college because I this is how much I believed in this. My mom, my parents, immigrant parents, like their whole belief system was, we came to this country, worked our asses off. You're going to go to college and you're going to make something better of yourself. And that was always the goal. And then while I was in college, I found stand-up comedy, and to wholeheartedly believe this is what I was meant to do, and to go, you know what, I'm going to stop going to college because I'm going to pursue this, so that becomes your life. That becomes your identity. That becomes, I'm a stand-up comic and I'm going to do all the shows, I'm going to do all the bad bar shows. I'm going to do the open mics. I'm going to do these shows where people don't even want stand-up to be better. And then finally, before everything gets shut down and taken away, I'm getting to a point where I'm getting some recognition. I've got some accolades under my belt. I was, I did an HBO special. I did the HBO series at Trenos, and I'm feeling good about the way things are going. And then the world shuts down and it's all gone. Everything's gone. Not even just like, oh, you're not going to be on TV no more. You're not going to do everything. Like I can't even get up at an open mic because they don't exist. We're labeled as non-essential, and everything you've been working towards is gone. And you're just like, what happened? And that messes with your head.
Yeah, to feel like you're non-essential. That's a word that came up that didn't exist pre-pandemic. And
Oof.
you find out who the essential workers that are and the non-essential. And
Yeah.
before the pandemic, we're all feeling good about the work we were doing, right? Like we were contributing, like we were part of something bigger. I mean, they say laughter, is the medicine, right? It heals
Mm.
all things. And then to be told you're non-essential is like, wait, does laughter heal, or are we non-essential? Like those two don't seem to go together. And so, what were those conversations you were having with yourself?
Well, in the beginning, I think we all believed it's gonna be like a couple weeks. We're like, I'll be all right. I'm just, I'll get a little rusty, and then those weeks start stretching into months, and you start thinking about the career as a whole. And I think some people pivoted. I was one of those people to pivot. Don't get me wrong. I saw some of my fellow comedians, my fellow colleagues struggle because that's all they have. That's all they want to do. And I tried, calling a couple of them and, just getting their mind right. But, I pivoted in the sense of like, all right, well, once this comes back, there's going to be a mad dash to the clubs. Well, what can I do to prolong this career? That became my vision and my focus for after the pandemic. Because we look around. There's some successful comedians, and some of them they just straight do stand up, and then there's some successful comedians that have switched it up and done other stuff to prolong their careers. So, I've got a family, I got kids, and for me, I'm like, do I really? When things open back up, do I really want to go back out on the road? We don't know what this is. We don't have a handle on it. Like we constantly hear new variants popping up. I'm like, I don't want to be out on the road and catching whatever. So what can I do? So I started taking writing courses. I started, I signed up for master class, started taking some of those because I'm trying to find other tools to give myself a well-rounded career.
I love that idea of pivoting and adding more tools to your arsenal, because so many times we can get caught up in our identity of I'm this, I'm that, and so when it's taken away, we could go, well, if I'm not that anymore, I'm nothing.
Oh yeah.
Where it looks like you thought about how do I expand and think about the longevity. How do I have? I love how you reframed it. You're like, all right, it went from I'm a comedian to how do I prolong my career, which then allowed you to be more flexible in how you approached it. How does it feel
Yeah.
expanding your toolbox, putting more tools in there and taking the classes?
It feels good, man. Because you and I know, you're in this industry long enough. It's like it's the world of no's. You go into every meeting. Hey, we got this. Nah, we're good. What about this? No, we don't want that. Or if you luckily do sell something of like, oh, this is the show. It's the Leo Flower show. They go, okay, now we need a writer. So why not take your career into your own hands where you can go, well, I can write it. Well, I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. Because also during the pandemic, I'm watching a lot of these younger, influencers on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, and I'm like, yo, they not only, because sometimes as comics we look at it like, they just write silly sketches, but really analyzing, I was like, yo, they are writing, they're editing, they're producing, and we're over here acting like, oh, I write jokes. I'm like, no, we need to learn all this skill set because they're miles ahead of us. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them will do one-nighters at comedy clubs and sell out, and the stand-up's not there, but they're doing the other stuff. And I'm just like, yo, we need to be doing the other stuff. We can't keep making fun of them because they're doing something right, you know?
Absolutely. And for the listeners out there, I don't want you to feel like, well, I'm not a comedian, I can't relate. Well, we're not really talking about stand up here. What we're talking about is learning and developing skill sets outside of what you're doing so that you can have a prolonged career. And
Yeah, listen, you don't have to be a stand-up comic. If at any point, and we've all been there where we're whatever job we're doing, whatever we're doing in life, we always go, oh, I can do that better. But we don't. We just sit back and just let it be the way that we'll find out how to do better. Like I was blown away by a couple of my friends who decided, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start my own career. I'm going to do this, and launched small businesses and are doing successful for themselves because, like I said, we learned at the drop of a hat, snap of a finger, it was all gone. It was all gone. So why not try to find those things to prolong that career, prolong your life, and be happy about it?
Yeah, a lot of times I that's the mentality that I've adopted, because historically when I've made money, I've spent my money on things that were what do you call non-essential, right?
Right.
Like food, drugs, alcohol, sex, like just things that weren't developing any type of value, that weren't asset producing. And now I'm thinking that, like you said, taking classes. I'm taking guitar classes. I was taking sign language classes. Just how do I build up different skills and assets, not really knowing how I'm going to use them, but just recognizing that I have to be doing more and learning more than what I have, because that's not going to
Right.
help me in the long run.
Yeah.
You being married and having 2 kids, did you take that approach also to your relationships? Like, wow, I don't have the communication skills that I thought that I needed for this. And so have you guys had couples therapy or individual therapy?
Well, stubbornly, I did not. And I think that's what happened. They put a lot of pressure on relationships through it. That's why some of them didn't make it. Because we just thought we could keep doing the same things we were doing. It's man, it's a different dynamic when there is no absence. Like I joke around about it on stage. I'm like, my wife used to go to work and I would do my own thing. And at the end of the day, you got something to talk about. But you're right, like the communication struggled because we didn't have that absence. We were around each other all the time. So it's like, you can't have those same conversations. Like, oh, what'd you do today? Like, you were here all day. You saw what I did. And what are you talking about? Like, but I will say I did seek solo therapy because I was like, I need to learn how to communicate. I need to learn how to open up about these things. I read this thing where it's like, it's cyclical. You're just repeating what you learned from your family. And don't get me wrong, my family was not healthy in that way. So for me to break that cycle and to pass that on to my kids, download that new software to them, I need to better myself because they're going to learn from me. They're going to pick that up from me.
What cycle, what part of that cycle are you trying to break up that you were raised with?
Just the closed offness of it all. My father was a man of few words. I had this joke in my act. I was like, I think he told me he loved me one time. And it was just because he paused. He was like, I love you, to get out in front of the television. Like, he wasn't an emotional dude. So I try to be, emotional with my kids. He didn't talk much. I think towards the end, like before he passed, him and my mother, maybe 1 or 2 words to each other, which is crazy. It's crazy. This is the person you spend the rest of your life with. It's insane.
How did they meet? Was it a beautiful love story between your dad and mama, or was it an arranged marriage? Was it was it a kidnapping situation?
They met at work. My father approached her and my mother said, "Oh, he's full of it," and she don't want to date him. That's the story I've been told. And then somehow they just started dating. And that was it. Like, it was not romantic. Like, you ever ask your parents? It's never, so I'm across the room. The music stopped. Everything moved slow motion. That my mother tells the story like, he approached me. He said, "Hey, can I take you out to dinner?" I was like, he's full of it, but I wanted to eat. So, okay. I was like, well, it's like, this is the story you're telling your kids. Like, that's not the story I want to download to my kids. Like, how'd you and mom meet? She was there and we were hungry.
Yeah, it's a short movie. It's a commercial. It's not even a long, drawn out, no courtship, no romancing, no letters back and forth, none of that.
Exactly.
So in therapy, you talked about going to individual therapy. Were there emotions or feelings that you weren't aware that were there?
Yeah, it's every day, man. I learned something because we
And
sort
I
of
understand that your wife is. It sounds like your wife is right there.
no, it's family, but no, you normalize a lot of the stuff growing up. We sometimes you look back at your childhood and you laugh like, oh, that's funny, and then when you sit with somebody, they're like, nah, that's not normal. You get hit with a belt buckle, like that's not a normal thing. And you learn all these things where you just like, oh man, like even like the greatest uh just mental glitch, if I can call it, almost like the Matrix, where you're just like, wait, whoa, like when you have your own kids and you start doing stuff with them and you're like, wait, why did my parents do this? I remember when my kids were born and reading these books and articles, like, if you talk to them and explain to them, they understand. But like my parents were so busy, they didn't have time to talk to me and explain. It's like, hey, go do this. Why? Because I said so. And then you have your kids and you're like, oh, I need you to do this, buddy. Why? Well, because this, and this. Okay. And then also this, and this. And they go, oh, like they're little people. They get it. They just want to be talked to and treated like people. And like you don't realize those little things. Like, you pick up a kid and they start screaming and throwing a tantrum. You're literally like, think about it. You as a person, if you're just standing somewhere, minding your own business, somebody picks you up, be like, yo, what the hell? But they can't vocalize that. They can't verbalize that because they're too small. So, that messes with your head when you have kids, and if you don't seek the help, you're just like, wait, why is this happening? Why am I feeling these emotions?
What messages did you receive from your dad or from society growing up about what being a man was, or what being a man is, and then also, now that you're a father, what being a father and a husband means?
In in the Latin culture, it's very much, and I think this is, even the old school way of thinking is like, you don't show emotion, like that's not a thing. If you cry, you look down upon. Oh, don't be a girl, don't cry. Like I remember all that all the time. I played little league. It was like, oh no, you got hurt. Just walk it off. Don't cry. Don't be a girl. Same thing with communication. Like me and him really didn't talk much. We didn't have the greatest relationship. Now, looking back at stuff, and with your kids, it's like the dad never really was involved. Like, my dad didn't take me to parks. He didn't do stuff with me. Like we didn't have like father son days or anything. Like I remember I did school plays and things, and he never showed up because that wasn't the norm. And now, with the job I do, and my wife, she works, she's got the corporate job, white collar job. I'm home with the kids because, with stand up, I do gigs at night, and then during the day I'm with them. So it's just a different dynamic of, being involved with them, being emotional with them. If they feel a certain way, I let them explore those feelings. This times my kid's like, I'm mad. I'm like, why are you mad? Because this isn't this. I was like, well, be mad, dude. Fucking embrace that. You got it. You got to. Because the way I was raised was like, you shove it all down and you bottle it up. And trust me, dude, I'm still working on it. But I remember a therapist one time was like, hey, one day you're going to have to open that box. You've been shoving everything in this box. And one day you're going to have to open it, because if you don't, it's going to start bursting out and it's going to start messing with you. And he told me, it's like, listen, it's gonna suck when you open that box, but you have to go through it. We have to go through these emotions that you've never confronted. And that's not healthy.
How do you go through the box of emotions?
Very carefully, slowly, and dude, it's new to me because, like I said, growing up, I wasn't emotional. I didn't confront any of this stuff. So there's times where like we'll tackle an issue, and my wife, she's supportive, so she'll be like, hey, what you guys talk about? And I'll let her know. I'm like, I'm not ready to talk about that yet right now. I have to still figure out how I feel about it, because sometimes you don't know how you feel about it, and that's okay too.
Absolutely. I grew up in a household where either mom was pissed or cool, and that was it. Those are the only two emotions. And now I have a emotional wheel, a feelings wheel on my laptop, and I printed one out because I'm like, I don't know how to label the other emotions. I didn't
Yeah.
know I didn't know that I was feeling hurt or I was
Yeah.
feeling powerless or humiliated. The other day, a new emotion I labeled nauseated. I was like, wow, that made me feel nauseated. And
Hmm.
so it's actually at first it was scary and intimidating and it felt too vulnerable
Yeah.
to be talking about emotions. And now it's actually fun and exciting to be able to label exactly how I feel because now it's easier to express it, because like you
Hmm.
said, your girl is like, how do you feel about, the session? Like, I don't know. I don't have
Yeah.
the vocabulary for it.
Yeah.
And now that it's kind of like, building up that emotional skill set of I know exactly how I feel right now.
Yeah.
And now I feel more empowered instead of embarrassed.
Oh yeah, dude, it's so awesome to like explore all that and learn how you really feel. Because like, same with my family. Like, get two emotions, like happy or mad, and that was it. And going through it, and now with my wife, like she'll like, oh, how was that gig? Going back to the stand up of it's like, oh, how was that? Before it was like, oh, I was mad. Why were you mad? I don't know. It was just it wasn't a good gig. And now being able to express like, oh, I feel hopeless. Like, what do you mean you feel hopeless? Well, because the club did this, this, and this, and I feel like I had no power, I had no say. And then it's like, wow, now you're able to verbalize everything you're feeling and realize why back in the day you were just mad for no reason. It's because of all of these things.
So when you are feeling hopeless and powerless, how did you traditionally handle those emotions versus how are you handling it now that you're aware and able to label it? Or is it the same? You're still figuring.
I try to sit with it. I try to come up with a plan to tackle it or confront it and figure out how to deal with it. The way I used to handle it was again bottle it up, and I would do this thing that a lot of our colleagues, some of our friends, like comedian Mal Hall and my wife, say. I would Rivera smile it, where I'd bottle it up and smile, and everything was okay. And that is not healthy.
It is not healthy, right? Because at some point, like I said, it expresses itself in either some passive aggressive way or you start to feel disconnected in your
Yeah.
relationships because here's a person who you've decided to spend the rest of your life with, and now you're starting to feel like they don't get you, but really it's because we don't have the vocabulary to express ourselves, so they don't know what the entry point is, and
Yeah.
now there's this space that's developing between you two.
Oh yeah, and if you don't know how to deal with it, then you're yelling at them and you're getting defensive with them. Like there's many times where my wife would be like, "Oh, I feel like we're disconnected. I don't feel like we're connected," and I'd get mad. Like, what do you mean? I'm sitting right here. We're watching Squid Games. What do you mean we're not connected? Okay, well, we're not communicating. Like, I'm talking to you right now, and you start spinning, not realizing what she's saying. She's like, I don't, I can see something is bothering you, and you're just not verbalizing it. I want to help. Like, that's pretty much what they're saying. But we aren't programmed that way, especially if you had parents that didn't talk to you, didn't teach you how to communicate, and you begin fighting. And dude, then you're sitting in the car, you go out for a walk, and you don't understand what the fight was about. Like, I don't. How did we get there? We were watching this show, and then all of a sudden we're not connecting. What do you mean? It's your gut feeling. Like, I don't understand what she's saying, and 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 then you just so furious about it, and you just spiral out of control, man.
Right. I don't understand what she's saying because I don't understand how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's
And
trying to help you, by the way.
right.
She's trying to help.
And so um well, I forgot what I was gonna ask you, but when was the last time you cried?
Man, last time I cried, what's today? Thursday? Uh, Tuesday?
Tuesday? Was it a commercial?
Nah, it was
Onions?
just dealing with stuff, man, dealing with family stuff, and going back to being able to express that I'm feeling lost or hopeless when it comes to certain things. I'm dealing with a lot on my plate. That's why I say don't, sometimes look, the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok, that's all the hits, man. But, dealing with family issues, dealing with, stuff with my mother as she's getting older and her health, dealing with my kids, it just weighs on you. And sometimes you just got to let it out. So that's the new Eric, being able to express those feelings and to cry it out. There's no shame in that, instead of just bottling it up and not dealing with it.
Now, how did your wife receive that? And I'm asking because I'm realizing that a lot of people feel maybe physically safe in their relationship, but maybe not emotionally safe, like not
Right.
emotionally safe enough, especially as a man, to
Yeah.
cry in front of your wife and then to still feel like she can still look at you as you're a man. What was that
Yeah.
experience like for you?
It's good. She's very supportive. She's very understanding. She was worried about me at points in our relationship where she's like, "You're not confronting these things, and I'm scared it's gonna start eating you up." Because there has been studies where if you bottle things up or you don't deal with certain things, your body starts breaking down. Your body takes all that negative energy, and it starts coming out in other ways or in your health. And that was always her concern. And now that not that I'm the best at it, or even like I'm getting better at it, being able to express and let those things out. She's supportive, and don't get me wrong, there are moments where she'll, you know I don't want to say not be supportive, but because this is new to us at times, I'll express something. She'll say her point, which I'll tell her, like, listen, don't do that, because I'm opening up right now. And again, this is all new, being able to communicate this. Like, I'm like, don't do that, because I'm opening up right now. That right there makes me want to shut down and pull back.
Tell me what that is, because there's so many listeners who are experiencing it and have not had that conversation yet with their wife and may not even recognize it's why they're shutting down.
So, like, sometimes with my wife, we'll have a conversation, XYZ, whatever it is, of, she'll ask, why did you do that, or what happened here? And I'll explain it. And, human nature, whether she agrees or not, she'll disagree with me in a way. And I don't want to use the word combative, because she's not combative, but when you have those back and forth with a spouse, sometimes it'll come off like an argument. And that's something I'm learning to deal with, like learning that no, there's not an argument, there's discussion. So if you're not new to opening up and being vulnerable, sometimes you'll see that as aggressive, and I'll tell you now, like, I'm one of those people where I don't want to have the argument. Sometimes I'll play an argument out of my head, right? Where I'll go, oh, I'm gonna go do this. I think every male comedian has, like, oh, your girl don't want you to go out and have fun or whatever. Which there is some truth in that, because guys, like, because we don't want to have that whole argument, we play the argument out in our heads. And I'm guilty of doing that too. By the way, that's awful, because I'm not giving my wife any credit that she'll understand a certain situation. I'll just play an argument out in my head where I'm like, oh, it's my boys. And I'm using this as an example. Like, it's my boy's bachelor party. He wants to go to strip club. But if I tell my wife I want to go to strip club, oh, that's what you want to see? Like, nah, that's not what I want to see. Oh yeah, but you're gonna go. And like, you play that whole argument in your head. And you go, you know what? I don't even want to deal with it. Fuck it. I'm just gonna stay home. Right. So you're not even giving your spouse the credit of being able to have that conversation and talk to you. So back to having that emotional thing where you go, oh, this is how I feel. Wait, what do you mean that's how you feel? You'll read that. What do you mean that's how you feel, as an aggressive, like, whoa, hold on. You tell me to communicate, open up. You got to hear me out here. You got to be open to what I'm telling you. So now I'm at a point where I can communicate that to my wife, where I'll tell her something, or I'll tell her how I feel, or I'll tell her how I read a situation. Because sometimes, you'll be put in a situation where you both read it a certain way, and I'll be able to explain it to her, and explain also, like, hey, don't do that, because I don't want to shut down on you, because then that becomes a bigger problem.
Yeah, when we expose ourselves in our emotional,
Yeah, because
uh,
that's terrifying, especially if
it's
you've never done it.
wow, terrifying. So
Terrifying.
so what are you terrified of?
Right now, anytime I have to express how I feel, man, it's still terrifying. It's like a high wire act, which is funny because we get up on stage and we bear personal details about us, but it's funny because it's in a, we've done it so long, we have almost a control, and then when you are in a discussion with someone, there is no control. So that, I think that's the most terrifying part. Like, I'm going to expose this, but I also don't have no control of how you're going to react to it. With comedy, I'm like, I'm going to expose this, but I'm doing it in a funny way, so I know what I'm doing here, and you really can't hurt me.
So the terrifying part is that we're gonna lose control. And if we lose control or are out of control or not in control, then what? What do you think happens?
Then, man, that's when my mind starts racing and playing tricks on me. Like, you think the worst case scenario, like in my head, it'll, I'm going to expose myself. I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to spiral out of control. And, you know, we're going to get to, whether it's with me and my spouse, like I'm going to get into arguments, or whether it's just me alone. Like, this is not good, because then, you know, a lot of it too is like, now I'm going through the baggage of relationship with me and my father. Like, I'm not gonna be able to confront him about it. Now I'm gonna have to live with this, and it's just not gonna be good or healthy for me to, you know, uncover these things.
What part of your relationship with your father was so hurtful?
All of it, Leo. We we growing up, he wasn't around as much. He was a big drinker. Um, he was always he was toxic to my mother. He was toxic to the family. Um, then, there was a separation between him and my mother for a while. Then he came back. He was a born again Christian, Pentecostal Christian, which you would think would be a good thing, but at that point, our relationship had been hurt and broken. And not to give him an excuse or an out, but he was raised a certain way where he didn't know how to communicate. He didn't know how to share the feelings he was going through. He didn't know how to, even apologize for what that first half of my childhood was. So we were just always like, he was that second half of my childhood, like high school and stuff. He was there, but he wasn't that supportive dad. He wasn't that, you know, that movie dad that we see on television. Like, even, my father passed away a couple of years ago. Like, even in movies, you'll always see that scene, like, son, oh, proud of you. And I just want you to know, like, that speech, dude. I remember him in hospice. Like, these were his final days. And my mother coming out, I think I had gone to the vending machine or something. She goes, "Hey, your father wants to talk to you." And in my head, I was like, "Yo, this is it. This is it. Like, I know we've had a broken relationship. This is it. I'm gonna have this talk. Woo! This is gonna heal everything right here, right now." I walk into the room. He's laying in the bed, just like in the movie. I'm hearing that beep, beep. I'm like, "Oh boy, I'm getting ready, dude. I feel the waterworks. Like, all right, don't let him out yet. This is gonna be so beautiful right here." And I was like, "Hey man, you want to talk to me? You okay?" "Yeah." I said, "What's up?" He's like, "Knicks don't look good this year." I said, "What?" Like, this is, yeah. Can you call the nurse? I want a milkshake. And that was it. Those are the last words
Get
my
out of
father.
here.
Those are the last words my father told me, dude. "The Knicks don't look good this year, and call the nurse. I want a milkshake." I didn't get that big movie speech I thought I was gonna get. I wasn't asking for the secret of life. I wasn't asking for nothing. Just, "Hey, I'm proud of you. I'm so sorry about all that
You're
that
not
all that shit."
asking nothing. You're not asking for no money.
No
the
money,
deed to the house. You just
nothing.
like,
Just want that
attaboy.
approval, that
Yeah.
approval I've been so desperately seeking, man. That approval of like, man, you're doing great. I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Nothing. The Knicks don't look good this year. Call the nurse. And I sat there. I was like, maybe more's coming. Nope. That was it. Flew back home, and then a couple of days later, I get the phone call. Hey, you got to come back. And I was like, all right.
The expectations were so high for this moment.
And I had a soundtrack playing in my head and everything as I walked into that room. I was like, this is it, man. This is about to go down. I thought he was going to Denzel John Q me right there. I'm not going to bury my son. My son's going to bury me. And one single tear, nothing. My man said the Knicks don't look good, which, by the way, the Knicks never look good. So that makes me even more furious.
Man, it's so funny. It's so painful at the same time, right? And that's the beauty of the craft in that we get a place to channel that,
Yeah.
that emotional weight, that we get a place to unbox our
Yeah.
feelings, right? And so, but it sounds like you also have compassion for your father, and that you understand he grew up in a time where emotions were a privilege. I think about that now.
Yeah.
It's such a privilege that I live in a time period where I can kind of be emotional.
Right.
When I was a kid, emotions could get you killed. It was a
Yeah.
threat. The more emotional person lost or ended up in jail, or it could lead to you get kicked out of school, all these different types of, you get labeled, bullied, that type of thing. And as I'm getting older now, I'm like, okay, I think it's safe now to cry,
Yeah.
feel hurt, to say, hey man, wow, I felt a little powerless in that situation. What gave you the courage, Eric, to start a family, have kids, buy a house? What gave you the courage to say, you know what, even with growing up in a household I grew up in, and having the feelings that I have, that I can move forward and raise a family and I can do this better?
Well, first of all, you give me way too much credit. I didn't buy a house. My wife did. I joke around. I got squatters right, DeLeo. My job did not exist last year. So no, but I think, you, like I said, everything is cyclical. You know, if you repeat the mistakes of your family, of your parents, and we've seen it with family. Like, I don't know if you have family like that, cousins and stuff. You just keep repeating it. It's not good. Like, the reason I do stand up is I remember my father and my uncles. They would get together on the weekends and crack open beers. Whether we watched a boxing match, you know, or a comedy special. Like, that's what we would do on the weekends. My family, they would bring over 6 packs and watch, Eddie Murphy Raw, Delirious, the Mike Tyson fight, whatever it was. And I'd remember them afterwards, just sitting around. Man, I could have I could have played in the band, man. I could have done this. Man, I took karate for a couple. I could have won tournaments. It was always the I could have been. And I saw that with my cousins and stuff. They all just could have been, man. Like, I could have been a professor, but no one took that. Like, they always had excuses for it. So for me, when I started doing stand up, I was like, no, I want to know. I want to know. I don't want to sit around wondering what I could have been. I want to be able to sit down and be like, yo, I did stand up, and I did it at the highest level, and I pushed myself. I did the Tonight Show. I did the specials, and trust me, it is not easy. I don't want to make it sound like it's easy. Like there's been multiple times where I was ready to walk away because this career is awful. You have to love this to do this, but it's awful. It's a lot of rejection. It's a lot of no's. But now we don't want that. Before I got, all right. So I did the Tonight Show. And back in the day, you did the Tonight Show. That shit would springboard you to your own sitcom or deals or whatever. It did nothing for me. So I did the Tonight Show, and then I'm just sitting around, just like, all right, so now what? Right before I shoot that first HBO Enter No special, and you can confirm this with my wife if you ever see it, man. I got that offer in December of, I don't remember what year it was, maybe 2017. But I remember that year, things were not happening for me, man. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I think this is it. I think after this year, I'm done. Nothing's happened. We got a family. I can't keep running around chasing, these $100 spots around town. I can't keep going on the road for no money. I was like, I'm done. I was legitimately looking at like job sites and seeing what skill set I possessed that I could do. Because again, I dropped out of college to do this.
Eric, I need you to pull the mic off your jacket a little bit.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at job sites, like trying to figure out what I can do because I dropped out of college. I had no degree. I'm like, what can I do? I was like, man, I guess I'm going to have to deliver food. I'm going to have to go into some kind of customer service. Maybe I could sell cars. Like I'm literally looking at jobs that my skill set could do. That offer shows up, and it was like almost like not yet. And so back to the cycle of it all, like I could have quit. I could have quit at any time. I could have stopped doing this, gone back home, tail between my legs. My family would have, supported me. My wife would have, been happy to pack it up and go back. There's been times she's talked about going back to her family in Maryland or going back to New York near my family. But then I would have been I could have been guy, like my father, like my uncles. Now, as far as family and children, when me and my wife got together, I saw all the failed marriages in my family. I saw the patterns of what wasn't working. So for me, when I found my wife was somebody who, like I always tell that a lot of it's always funny because comedians always ask like, yo, how did you find your wife? What made you decide she was the one? Because, we are comedians. We're like the island of misfit toys. It's hard to meet someone who, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's hard to meet somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with because our hours are so all over the place. We work at night, we work on weekends. And if you want to meet someone who is, quote unquote normal, they work during the week, 9 to 5. 9 to 5, we are sleeping and doing our own thing. And then at night, we're out while they're at home doing a puzzle and going to bed early. And then they want to go out on dates and introduce you to your friends on weekends. That's when we work. That's our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We can't take off. So it's hard to find that person that, number one, understands what you do. And number two, I always tell them, like, find somebody that understands what you do. And number two, find somebody that's going to make you a better version of yourself. And that's what my wife does for me. That doesn't mean she's not a fan, because there's sometimes comics, we find somebody who loves us and we can do no wrong. No. Then that's not the right person. You need to find somebody who's going to push you to be a better version of yourself. So when I told my wife, I was like, yo, I want to prolong my career. I want to take these classes. Yep. That's what you should do. That's good. Because she knows that's making me a better version of myself. She could have lied to me, rubbed my shoulders, babe, it's going to be all right. When things open up, you're going to be back on the road. It's going to be amazing. Nope. She wants me to be a better version of myself. Do this. When I told her I'm thinking about doing therapy, yep, you should do therapy. Because I agree with you. The things that you think you're struggling with, I think Someone that's not me can help you get through those things. Find that better version. So when I found her, I said, "Yep, this is the girl I want to marry." It's not easy. We've had our hardships. We still do. Every marriage does, but we've worked together as a team to get through them. And then when it came to kids, I wanted to break that cycle of not being around and doing the things that weren't done for me. I want to raise. Not only does my wife make me a better version of me, I want to raise the next version, the better version of the Riveras. It's almost like an iPhone. I'm iPhone 1. I've got problems. I'm trying to drop iPhone 12s here. I want them to be holy crap amazing. And don't get me wrong, I'm gonna mess up. I know I'm gonna mess up. I don't want the listeners to think I got it all under control and know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna make them better versions.
Earlier, you talked about how you wanted your father to feel proud of you and to say he was proud of you, and you
Mhm.
wanted that approval. How do you validate yourself now, Eric Rivera? How do you give
It's
that to yourself?
it's hard, man. It's hard because I think you know this in our line of work, there is no structure. My wife, she's, like I said, she's got a white collar job. She's a corporate job. So the validation comes through promotions, comes through feedback from her coworkers. It comes from raises, and we don't have that. And it was so funny when we first started dating. She tried to look at it from that mindset. Like, so what happens next? What in 6 months? Is there a review? I was like, what you talking about? In 6 months, I could still be working for chicken wings, or I could be selling out theaters, but there's no guarantee. Um, and it's hard in this profession to sometimes stop and give yourself that that pat on the back and be like, hey, you're doing it, because we're always trying to look for the next thing. We're always trying to, oh, what's that dude doing over there? What's she doing over there? Oh, she's doing a Netflix special. He's doing a Hulu thing. Like, how do I get to that? Like, and you don't celebrate those little wins. Like, my wife has really helped me celebrate those wins. Like when I shot the special, uh, we shot in San Antonio, and I just remember afterwards, I was sitting there. I was like, all right, so what's next? And she was like, stop. What are you doing? I was like, well, I'm just trying to figure out what my next move is. She's like, take this in. She's like, think about little you. And I tell this to a lot of comedians because Ida just shot her special. And I called her. I was like, I know it's the pressure of what's next. What do I got to do? How do I make this work for me? I was like, this is exactly what she said. Think about little you. Think about if you could sit down with little Eric, what he would say if you told him you just shot an HBO special. Little Eric used to sit around, watch his uncles and his dad drinking beer, watching specials on HBO in awe. Little Eric, you just shot an HBO special. And it's hard, man. Like I said, it's hard because we're always trying to figure out what our next move is, and we can't stop. We can stop. You have to stop. We're not machines. And you got to celebrate these little wins, man, or you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much talk I hear in the therapy world, and other comics have mentioned this in terms of some people carry around a photo of their 9-year-old self or their childhood self or whatever version of themselves that they picture when
Mm.
the what the little version is. When you think about little Eric, what age is that for you?
Man, it's about like when my son is now like 9. He's like third grade. I had I was like the lead in the school play, and I still was like, I knew I wanted to perform, but I didn't know how. And that's when like things were like, that's where I felt like I was me before all the insecurities and all that stuff started happening. You get to middle school, and you're like, this is crazy in high school. But yeah, like third, fourth grade, man, that's when I think of little Eric, like that's who I see.
I know that in the beginning, we also talked about how important it is for you to get better, to improve, and to make progress. And following you on Instagram, I know that you're constantly getting in those steps.
Oh yeah.
and you're getting in that run, and you post your score. How do you balance getting better and pivoting? And what I mean is, at some point when we're getting better, we're gonna hit a ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Usain Bolt can only get so fast. You can only lift so much. You can only be so funny, right?
Right.
How do you balance that? How do you know when you're pivoting and not just giving up?
That's a man. Wow, you hit me hard there, Leo. I think so. I run, and I've run a couple races, but I'm not trying to, I'm not like, it's so funny because I watched that Icarus documentary on Netflix where the dude was like doping to see if he can get faster. I'm not trying to get faster. I'm just doing it for my own health. Like I do the running to keep, my body healthy and to keep my mind healthy. Like that's why the runs happen. Like people always think it's because I'm trying to, he's trying to get a six pack. No, I'm doing it for my own mental health. Like I got the kids. Once they get up, the day is off and running for me. So that morning at 6 a.m. when there's no one on the road, that's the time I can really just process my thoughts and go through it. Now I don't see that ceiling as a failure. Like I got to get faster. I got to like that's for me. Now, same thing with comedy. Like it's not a competition, man. Like it's what you make of it. Like will I get funnier? Maybe. Well, but if I start putting uh, these weird goals, like I always tell people, like, don't set impossible goals. Like if I tell myself, oh, you got to be Chappelle, I'm setting myself up for failure. I'm going to be Eric Rivera. That's all I can be. That's who I can be. Will I get funnier? Maybe. Will I not get funnier? Who knows? But that pivot, I don't look at it as a failure because like, oh, I'm not going to surpass Chappelle or George Lopez or Chris Rock. I'm trying to be something else. Like I sat down with this agent, and it's so funny, in Hollywood, you sit down with these agents and they all try to sell you on this one dream. Like there can only be this one dream. All right. So you want to be the next Kevin Hart? No, I don't. Kevin's Kevin because Kevin does what he does. Do I, and I'm not talking about like the funny or the this or that. Like Kevin is a machine. He's in everything. They're like, well, what kind of career do you want? And it's so funny because why do we measure that success based on this one person's road? It doesn't have to be. Like, who has an amazing career that nobody knows about is Bobcat Goldthwait. That's the dude, Police Academy, the dude that talked all weird.
Yeah, because he's producing movies now too.
He's a producer, he's a
killing.
director, and no one knows because that's not what we see on Instagram. That's not the glitz and glam of it. Like I joke around. I signed with this commercial agent. She's like, hey, we're going to send you out this, that, and the other. Like Flo from Progressive, I would kill to have her career. You know how much money she's making, but we don't see the glitz and glam of it. No, we want to like people. Oh, if you're not a Kardashian, you're not. No, dude, it's the people that you least expect and have prolonged their careers, man. Like, that's for them, that's successful. Like whatever makes you happy, that's your success, man. Don't set yourself up for failure. You know it because I see you're in the fitness game and everything. Like I worked at a Bally's way back when, and it used to make me laugh to see people come in January 1st. Oh, yo, this month I'm gonna lose 45 pounds. I'm like, what? Are you sick? There's no way. Why are we setting ourselves up for this failure? Oh, I gotta have Kevin Hart's career. Don't do that to yourself. Whatever makes you happy and you put in your toolbox, that's your success, and embrace it and celebrate that win.
What are you looking forward to, Eric Rivera?
I'm looking forward to a new year, man. Like not the, I don't want to be that person like, oh, it's got to happen starting 2022 because I'm constantly working on myself. Like, I'm working on different things. I wrote a script during the pandemic. I'm excited for people to read it. I'm working on this new project that I'm writing right now. it doesn't necessarily have to happen 2022 because I'm doing it now. But the fun part is when and if these things do happen, people are going to go, oh, he came out of nowhere. Nuh-uh. I've been working on this stuff for years. I've been working on this for the last year, this script. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be fooled by the gram. That's what I keep telling people. Do not be, there's work being put in. So mimic the work. Don't mimic that finished product.
So we talked about celebrating wins, going to therapy, building up skill sets, going for a walk. When you talked about going for a walk, you talked about how it was for your mind and body. What else are you doing for your mind and body? Or do you meditate? Are you journaling?
I just started journaling, but for mind and body, it's the run, man, and then just trying to be, for the mind, just trying to be present in my kid's life, man. Like it sounds cheesy, but it's amazing to watch them and the way they respond to me being there and the things we do together. Like, I know I said before, like my father wasn't around. So like me and my boys, we do what I call adventure days. Like it'll be one weekend. I'm like, hey, we're going on an adventure day so that we can go to a movie, or we went to Sky Zone, which is like this big trampoline park, and just being present and watching their faces that I am that present dad. Like, and what I mean by present is, look, there's other parents that take their kids to Sky Zone, but I've seen some of these parents where they're just sitting on the sideline on their phones, just scrolling. It's one thing to take your kid, it's another thing to play with them. And they're like, oh, snap, dad is jumping on this trampoline with me. Like my father wouldn't be caught dead on a trampoline. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing it for them, but I'm also doing it for me because that benefits me. Like there's nothing greater than my kid. Like my little one, he's 5. He tells me all the time, Dad, you're my best friend. That breaks me up like you wouldn't believe. I don't even think like you remember MySpace had the top 8 friends. I don't even think my dad makes my top 8, dude. And that's I'm being honest. Like he's not somebody I would run to. Like, Dad, I got this problem, but I truly believe if my kid's got a problem, he's coming to me and going, hey, this is what's going on with me, and I'll be able to help him.
That's a very powerful thing, man. That has to feel fulfilling, Are you reading anything, Eric? Because I know you're a learner, you're a studier, but are you reading anything just for yourself outside of, for scripts and work?
Not right now. Right now it's a bunch of like just different writing books that I've picked up. Like I believe I'm like you. When I get my mind set on something, I dive deep to try to learn it all. And here's the trick: you're never gonna learn it all. But I try to pick up every little thing I can about writing treatments, script writing, and script doctors, and what theories are out there. So right now it's just all about the writing process.
Will Smith has a video about the books that he read on writing scripts. There's like 13 of them. I ordered all 13 of the books. I think I got halfway through them. I might be on book 7 or 8, but I was like, oh, I'm going to read all the books. And then I'm like, I don't even remember what the books were. It's somewhere.
Yeah. The last book I read from me was the Goggins book. I started reading that.
Oh yeah, that was.
And
good.
I had to put that one down a couple of times. It gets intense.
It's intense.
I was like, oh my gosh! All right.
yeah. It was a lot more than what I thought. But I actually listened to that one, and I could only listen to it while I was walking.
Yeah.
Like it's too intense just to be sitting down and hearing this dude yell at you.
Yeah. No, if you watch his Instagram, that's what he's doing. He's running and yelling at you. It's like, it's a lot. His book should have been in all caps. Like that's the kind of
dude. Eric, man, this has been a pleasure. Tell people how they can find you. Plug all your things.
Yeah, you can follow me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Eric Rivera Comedy, ERIK Rivera Comedy. Website ericrivera.com. Like I said, I'm not doing a lot of tour dates. I'm doing a few just because still, trying to keep my family safe, my kids safe. But yeah, look out for projects to come out 2022, man. I'm pushing over here. I'm working.
I love it. And then last question, because I always feel like there's one person listening in who may be on the precipice of wanting to end their life.
Mm-hmm.
Before you kill yourself, what would you say to them, Eric Rivera?
Wow. Man, that's a I love that you called me yesterday, like do my podcast, and you did not prep me for this heavy question at the very end. Man, that's a tough one, man. Because I was asked recently by my therapist. They asked me, do you think you're depressed? Which was a heavy question, and I didn't know how to answer it because for me, like I said, I didn't confront a lot of my emotions, and who knows what I dealt with in the last couple of years because I ignored it. So if anybody's out there and they're at that point, man, I would just tell them to like look back at all of that, what led them to where they're at right now, and try to sort through that shit, man. Because don't get me wrong, it's tough, but there's no easy way of going through it. Like you could be, in your teens, you could be 20, you could be 30, you could be 40, like and we're all going through it. You're not alone in this. Like I find that like a lot of times people think they're alone in what they're going through. We're all going through the struggle. Just because, like I said, man, don't look at the gram. You think everybody's living this great life. They're not. There's struggle there. Like you go on my Instagram, it's all smiles, it's all jokes. But like I said, I almost quit. I almost quit comedy multiple times. Me and my wife, we almost split up a couple times. It's not always what it seems, and you're not going through this alone. I did this fun thing during the pandemic where I asked people, because I think we were all going through it. We were all going through this, like, just, our feelings. And I was like, well, what song gets you through it? And it was cool to have people send me their songs. And I put together this playlist. And I shared this playlist with all my followers. I was like, listen, I put some songs up here that I use to help me. You sent me the songs, and this is our playlist. And I can't tell you how many people were so excited. Like, thank you for doing this, for putting this together, for letting us know we're not going through this alone. I have my ups and downs too. So just reach out, find somebody. You can't be too proud to ask for help. Ask, reach out. People would love to hear from you. People would love to help you. That's it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Eric. I'm proud of you. I approve your message. I approve the work that you've done. Thank you so much to listeners for tuning in. Remember, this podcast is not a substitute for you going to get help, for you calling the 1-800-SUICIDE or 1-800-273-TALKS. Remember, this podcast is not a substitute for you going to get help. It's not a substitute, people. Call all the numbers that are in every single one of the show notes, whether you are in Taiwan or Budapest or Africa or Toronto or Tallahassee, wherever you are in the world, there are international suicide hotline numbers for you. You can talk, you can chat, you can text if you like Eric and got a bunch of family over and you like, man, I can't talk to nobody. They're going to hear everything. You can chat and text. But there's somebody out there who's willing to hear what you're going through because you're not alone. And the gram is just a small part of what people are really experiencing. You can always go to thrivewithleo.com for one-on-one coaching with yours truly. Let's get to tomorrow together. Thank you so much, Eric.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.